"Excuse me, ma'am. I'm going to need you to step aside." A firm voice rang out from the front desk. No greeting, no smile, only a scrutinizing look from a middle-aged man in a black suit standing behind the luxurious mahogany reception desk of the Westcourt Manor Hotel. The surrounding space fell silent. Only the soft clatter of suitcase wheels and gentle strains of classical music floated from the ceiling speakers. The woman he had just asked to move, a woman of color wearing a light blue blouse, black slacks, and flats, stood still. No frown, no reaction. Just a steady gaze meeting his eyes, as if she'd heard those words 1,000 times in her life. But this time, she didn't plan to step aside. "I have a reservation. Penthouse. Name's Carter." She said it calmly, quietly. The man glanced down at the screen, then smirked. Penthouse with that kind of style, the sentence didn't need to be finished. Those nearby, a couple checking out a group of business travelers waiting for a cab, froze. The atmosphere in the lobby shifted like a cold draft, sweeping across the velvet carpet. He leaned forward, picking up the ID she handed over with 2 fingers, as if it might dirty his hand. Carter. No membership card. No shuttle service arranged. No luggage. She stayed silent. The woman, Aisha Carter, simply nodded. "I walked here from the office, just 3 blocks away." He squinted. "Office," she didn't answer. But something in her eyes made him pause for half a second. A quiet confidence, as if she knew something he didn't. "I'm afraid we're unable to verify your reservation." He gestured to the staff member beside him, a young blonde receptionist with her hair tied high. "Call security," he said softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "We might be dealing with a high-level fraud attempt." A nearby guest gasped. Another quietly pulled out their phone and started recording. Mrs. Carter still said nothing. She pulled out her phone, tapped a single number. "Activate," she whispered. "I want everything recorded from now on." The manager raised an eyebrow. "Are you threatening me, Mrs.?" Carter looked up, a soft smile. "I don't need to threaten you. You're doing that all by yourself." The receptionist turned back, visibly tense. "Security is on the way." "Ma'am, please step away from the front desk." Another guest spoke from the waiting area. "I saw the name Carter on the check-in screen. It had a VIP note." The manager snapped around. "Who gave you permission to look at our internal screens?" But it was too late. A quiet murmur spread across the guests. That man, Tom, a longtime patron who'd stayed at Westcourt for over 4 years, raised his voice. "I know this woman. I saw her speak at last month's hospitality industry conference." She, as his sentence, was cut off by an announcement echoing through the lobby speakers. "To all staff, there is an unidentified guest in the main lobby. Incomplete information provided. Unable to verify credentials. Do not engage." As the announcement ended, Mrs. Carter stepped forward. "You just used the hotel's communication system to publicly broadcast false information. That will be included in the disciplinary record." The manager laughed. "A record discipline? Who do you think you are?" A pause. A breath. "I'm the person who signed the long-term lease for this entire building. I'm the one who named the penthouse floor. And I'm the one who decides who stays and who goes." He blinked. "That's not possible." She raised her phone. A woman's voice responded. "Alia, the system is now connected. All camera footage, audio, and digital logs are syncing to the server. Audit mode confirmed." Several staff members stepped back. A few others began filming with their own phones. The blonde receptionist turned to the manager. "Greg, I think we need to recheck the reservation." "Too late," said Mrs. Carter. Gregory Marshall, manager of the Westcourt Hotel, received 3 formal complaints for discriminatory behavior in the last 6 months. Each one removed from the system by you personally. He blushed. "That's not true. One of those 3 people was me. I tried booking a room under a fake name 3 months ago. And before that, I sent one of my senior staff, dressed just like today. Both were turned away. He was speechless. Mrs. Carter continued, her tone steady. I don't need to walk in with a VIP badge or an escort. I just want to be treated like any other guest. Greg swallowed. I didn't know. I thought. Who did you think I was? Now every eye in the lobby was on them. A silence hung tense, but expectant. You thought a black woman alone, dressed simply, didn't have the right to be here. You thought power comes from the name tag on your chest. He stepped back half a step. Mrs. Carter turned to her phone. Revoke system access for Gregory Marshall. Do it now. A woman's voice on the other end confirmed. Access has been disabled. Employee ID GM 114 permanently locked. An alert beeped from the security gate behind the reception desk. He turned. A red light. The hotel lobby moments ago, a symbol of managerial authority, had become a stage for a quiet, undeniable kind of justice. A woman stepped toward Mrs. Carter. Excuse me, are you really the CEO of the entire Westcourt system? She nodded. And today, I'm not just here to check in. She turned back to her phone. Initiate termination procedures, including management front desk and all involved staff. Temporarily assign replacements from the internal audit team. By now, the blonde receptionist had begun to cry. I didn't know I was just following orders. And today you'll learn a lesson. Don't follow orders when you know they're wrong. The lobby was silent. Then applause. Not for humiliation, but for truth. Mrs. Carter didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to flaunt her power. All she did was walk in as a human being and be denied the right to simply be one. But this time she didn't stay silent. She acted in front of everyone, and everyone was satisfied, not because of revenge, but because justice finally had a name. Aisha Carter walked into the Horizon Grand Hotel under the fading Seattle afternoon sun. She wore a plain black t-shirt, faded gray jeans, her hair tied neatly behind her neck. Over her shoulder, she carried an old leather bag and a quiet sense of composure. But no one noticed. At the front desk, Lauren Hayes looked her up and down. Her eyes turned cold. The customer service smile vanished almost instantly. Beside her, Kevin Patel, tall, lean, expressionless, didn't even greet her. Who are you here to see? Lauren asked, her tone cautious. Oh, I've got a reservation, Aisha answered softly, placing her ID card on the counter. Aisha Carter. I arrived a little earlier than expected. Kevin picked up the card, turned it a few times, and glanced at Lauren. A strange look passed between them. Do you have a confirmation email? A message, Lauren asked, not even touching the computer. I booked through the internal site, Aisha replied. Black Diamond member number 348. Lauren shook her head, trying to suppress a smirk. You know, Diamond tier guests don't usually book this way, right? Kevin chimed in, and they usually don't dress like that. The words dropped into the lobby like a stone into still water. Aisha remained calm, but her eyes narrowed slightly. I think you should check again, she said steady. I'm the founder of Horizon Hospitality. This is one of my original properties. Kevin dropped the ID card back onto the counter deliberately. You can say that, but you've got nothing to prove it. And we reserve the right to refuse guests who raise red flags. Lauren nodded in agreement. Per policy, we can hold on to the ID if there are suspicious signs. And you're making other guests uncomfortable. Which guests? Aisha asked, turning slowly to scan the lobby. There was only an old man reading a newspaper, a couple pulling a suitcase, and a security guard approaching. Lauren looked down and pretended to type. You'll need to leave the lobby until you can prove legal identification. You're suspecting that I'm impersonating myself, Aisha repeated, as if to confirm she heard correctly. We're just following protocol, Kevin replied, eyes glued to the screen, a screen Aisha knew very well had not been logged into the internal system. At that moment, the elevator doors opened softly behind them. A young woman stepped out holding a tablet, Aisha's personal assistant. But instead of intervening, she gently shook her head, signaling not to get involved, then turned and walked away, as if just receiving instructions to stay out of it. Aisha understood. She wanted to see this through, to test the very system she once believed in. And in that exact moment, a strange silence stretched across the space. The approaching security guard froze when he met her gaze. He recognized her, clearly, but said nothing. A janitor in the distance quickly pulled out a phone as if wanting to record something, then lowered it. Another person stood in the elevator's shadow, watching through the closing gap, sighed and nodded slightly. Aisha turned to Lauren and Kevin. Her voice now carried no gentleness. I'll ask one last time. Are you both sure you want to keep my badge deny me in full view of the surveillance cameras and my own security team? Kevin hesitated. Lauren still didn't understand, but a second later, the back door swung open. The operations manager from upstairs stepped out. What's going on here? He asked, his eyes cold like he'd just been dragged out of the control room. Aisha stared straight at him. Gregory Vance, she said, I think you should review all camera footage from the past 7 minutes and prepare the personnel files for every shift today. Lauren's mouth fell open. Kevin stepped back half a pace. Gregory froze, then instantly understood. No need for further delay. Miss Carter, he began. Aisha raised her hand to stop him. I don't need an apology. I need the truth. And change. Right now. A young staff member in the distance gently placed a hand on her chest. In her eyes, a spark of belief had just been lit. Even the guard, the one who'd been told to watch the doors, now lowered his head slightly, as if realizing he'd just witnessed something far greater than procedure. The truth had just walked into the lobby, and it was wearing jeans. Lauren picked up Aisha's ID badge again, this time not hiding her doubt. She tilted it under the lobby lights, then glanced at Kevin as if waiting for a signal. Kevin stood silently, eyes fixed on Aisha. There was something in his look not quite suspicion, more like caution laced with a hint of mockery. This badge, Lauren began, her hand moving under the counter. It doesn't look like the type issued by our internal system. I'll need to keep it for verification. Aisha slowly followed her hand with her eyes. What are you doing with it? Protecting hotel property, Kevin answered for her. If this is a fake badge or used improperly, we're required to hold it for reporting. Lauren opened a small drawer, slid the badge into a black combination locked safe. When the click sounded, the entire lobby seemed to freeze for half a second. Not because the sound was loud, but because it was final, like a door had just shut with strange resolve. Aisha tilted her head. You just locked away my valid ID badge in a safe. Lauren said nothing. Aisha lowered her voice, but it was still crystal clear. I am the founder of this corporation. If you wish to challenge that, I suggest you open the system. Type in the highest level access code. The owner's code. Kevin chuckled softly. Owner's code? What are you trying to play at, Mrs. Carter? Aisha stepped back slightly, never breaking eye contact. I'm giving you both one chance. Unlock the safe. Return the badge. And check my name in the system. Right now. Lauren crossed her arms. We could call the police. On what grounds? Aisha asked. For asking for my own badge back, Kevin cut in. For impersonation and threatening staff. A guest near the reception desk cleared their throat, eyes filled with disapproval. A young woman in the farthest corner of the lobby with a phone resting on her lap subtly angled her camera toward the counter. Next to her was a young man in a hoodie quietly adjusting the frame. Neither of them said anything, but the camera had already started rolling. You say you're the founder of this hotel, Lauren said, lowering her voice, but you don't have a membership card, no luggage, no staff here recognizes you, and now you're loudly demanding a card back. Then she looked straight at Aisha, enunciating each word. Clearly, you're not a real guest. And you don't belong here. Kevin stepped aside and began reaching for his phone. We're calling the police. Aisha didn't move, but her gaze had shifted from calm to ice cold. Then something strange happened. The in-house radio inside Kevin's vest lit up with a red signal someone from the control room had connected in. But Kevin quickly turned the volume down, as if trying to hide the incoming transmission. A small line of text appeared on the control screen behind the front desk. CIA1 Aisha Carter, confirmed founder-level access. But no one at the counter bothered to read it. The live streamer, the girl with the phone on her lap, whispered into her wireless mic voice, low and firm, clear angle. Audio's good. She never raised her voice. No threatening behavior. Entire incident is documented. Next to her, Jacob, her friend, muttered, "Go live." Don't wait. The police hadn't arrived yet, but hundreds of people were already watching. Aisha turned slowly, not panicking. She simply looked directly into Sophie's camera and nodded. A nod that seemed to say, "I know what you're seeing, and the world deserves to see it all." Lauren was still rambling on about hotel policy when the security officer stepped in, but not to detain Aisha. He looked over at the control system behind the desk. His eyes moved from Kevin to Lauren and then finally to the screen, where the name Aisha Carter was clearly displayed under the top-tier VIP booking list. "I think he swallowed hard. I think something's off here." Kevin stepped back, trying to block the screen, but it was too late. A soft click was heard. Sophie had snapped a photo of the screen. The live stream now had over 30 viewers and rising every second. Just then, Gregory Vance, the regional manager, entered the lobby. He didn't fully understand what was going on. All he saw was Lauren speaking rapidly, Kevin shouting something about security, and a black woman standing in the center of the lobby as if she were the eye of the storm. He shouted, "Who authorized filming in here? Turn it off, this is private property." But his voice was overpowered by another deeper, firmer, coming from Aisha's earpiece. Internal HQ confirms high-level ownership mode active. Ground floor cameras in sync. Emergency protocol ready to initiate. Gregory froze. Aisha turned to face him. "I've been very patient, Gregory. But you should know, this isn't the first time I've tested this system. It's just the first time I've let the public see it." The atmosphere in the lobby shifted like something cracking from the inside. There was no hiding anymore. It all started with a card locked in a drawer, and now every door of deception was swinging wide open. Justice didn't knock. Today, it walked right in and brought its own camera. Aisha stood still at the center of the Horizon Grand Hotel lobby. Every eye was on her now. The air felt heavy, like everyone was bracing for a storm. But Aisha remained unfazed. She quietly raised her wrist to touch the watch she wore, an internal identity-linked device. A short audio signal pinged just loud enough for her and one other person to hear. Upstairs on the third floor in the tech command room, her personal assistant Nia received the trigger. She knew exactly what to do. No further instruction needed. Down in the lobby, Lauren was still sneering, trying to appear unshaken. Kevin fumbled with his phone, typing something quickly. His face, though trying to stay composed, was betrayed by his shaking hands as he watched the livestream count soar. At that moment, a gentle voice rose from the end of the front desk. "Excuse me, I think her name is in the system." Everyone turned. It was Elena, the new receptionist, only 3 weeks into the job. She didn't dress flashy, didn't talk much, but her eyes held sincerity. Her hand trembled slightly as she pointed to the screen. "I see the name Aisha Carter. Penthouse reservation. Internal confirmation code HC1. Status founder level." Lauren froze. Kevin frowned. "You're reading it wrong," Lauren said quickly. "It could be someone with the same name." "No," Elena replied. Her voice for the first time rang out clearly. "No one has the code HC1 except the founder." Aisha said nothing. She simply tilted her head, looking at Lauren, not with blame, not with satisfaction, just silently asking, "Are you still going to deny it?" But instead of backing down, Lauren suddenly stepped toward Elena and snapped, "You're overstepping. You don't have the seniority to confirm high-level information. You should stay quiet and let someone experienced handle it." Elena stepped back half a step, face pale. A guest in the lobby, a middle-aged woman in a business suit who had been silently observing, walked up to Elena. "She's just doing the right thing. She's the first one here with enough courage." Kevin quickly interjected, trying to divert the situation. We can't verify anything from the words of someone new. Aisha pulled a small piece of paper from her pocket, a handwritten note marked with Horizon's red stamp. She placed it on the front desk. The words HC1 system, check at 14:30. Lauren looked at the note, then looked at the clock. The hour hand pointed exactly to 14:30. A young guest from the waiting area suddenly shouted they'd just pushed her. I got it on video. They touched her. A wave of outrage spread. As Lauren moved toward Elena, her hand had lightly brushed Aisha aside. Just a touch, but in this setting, it was more than enough to ignite the hotel lobby. She's the owner of this hotel and you just touched her like she's a stranger. A middle-aged man stood up, voice full of anger. A couple who had been eating breakfast stood up and stepped toward Aisha. We're regulars at Horizon. You gave a speech at the community gathering 3 years ago. You're the one who rebuilt this hotel after the 2017 fire. Lauren stepped back. Kevin looked so confused he couldn't speak. Aisha turned her gaze, still calm but carrying something much bigger than anger. I was once kicked out of a hotel in Atlanta just because I wore a t-shirt. She said it softly. I once sat in a boardroom and was called that sweet waitresses when I was actually the investor. I rewrote the entire employee training system at Horizon, exactly because of moments like this. Each of her sentences struck like a blow straight into the walls of prejudice that surrounded the lobby. Walls built from complacency and the unspoken idea of who gets served and who doesn't. From upstairs, Nia sent the signal. A chain of lobby lights shifted from warm yellow to cold white, the sign that direct control mode had been activated. A ceiling camera swiveled gently, beginning to record at a higher frame rate. Gregory Vance, regional manager, stepped out of the surveillance room, his face pale. In his hand, a color-printed report, a list of every staff member present today, and an internal time log. Before he could speak, Aisha raised her voice. Gregory, I've already warned you about the discriminatory behavior between online bookers and guests who look the part. This is the 3rd time. He froze. Elena quietly stepped over to stand beside Aisha. She said nothing, but her eyes said everything. Aisha looked up at the camera system and spoke as if addressing those watching the live stream. This is not just about me. This is about how people like me, people who don't fit the mold you're used to seeing, are treated when we're not wearing a CEO badge. A heavy silence fell over the Horizon Grand Lobby. But this time, it wasn't the silence of doubt. It was the silence before something changed. She walked to the digital management panel behind the desk and scanned her fingerprint. The screen lit up, displaying just 2 words, MASTERACCESS. Aisha no longer needed anyone to confirm it. She had confirmed it herself, and everyone else was watching. The Horizon Grand Lobby held its breath as the words MASTERACCESS glowed on the internal control panel. A moment stretched long, as if the entire room went quiet to hear what would come next. Aisha turned back. No one questioned who she was. No need for a loud announcement or security assistance. With just her gaze and a calm, firm voice, she spoke this front desk. This lobby, this building, they are directly owned by Horizon Holdings, and I am the founder. Kevin took a step back. His eyes darted to the staff, searching for support, but no one dared meet his gaze. Gregory stood frozen on the wooden staircase leading down to the lobby, trying to keep his voice steady. You may be a senior shareholder, I understand. But when it comes to personnel management, we need to follow procedure. We can't just… Aisha interrupted with a look. I've reviewed the procedure. In person. 3 times. Elena stood near the reception desk, her eyes still fixed on the screen, showing the authority confirmation. She spoke softly, unprompted. She's not a shareholder. She's the founder of Horizon Group. Her system code is the highest level, Kevin whispered. As if waking from a dream, she really owns this place, Gregory spoke again. We didn't know. Aisha raised her head and looked him straight in the eyes. You knew. That sentence froze the entire room. A few employees in the distance glanced at each other. One of them gave a small nod. You knew very well. You were once invited to my office on the 8th floor. We talked about training staff on the new code of conduct, but you didn't follow through. Her voice remained steady, but it grew firmer with each word. You deleted customer reports. You told Elena to stay silent if she wanted to keep her job. And you stood by as Lauren and Kevin insulted guests right at the desk. Gregory had nothing more to say. He stood motionless, eyes reddened. Aisha picked up her phone and made a call. Carla. Initiate emergency protocol. Personnel Gregory Vance, Lauren Hayes, Kevin Patel. Action level immediate dismissal, permanent access revocation device retrieval. Independent oversight team required on site. On the other end, Carla replied firmly, order received. Team is en route. Aisha hung up. Moments later, the automatic glass doors rotated open. 3 staff from internal oversight walked in carrying HR checklists and device recovery kits. No one needed to shout. Everything proceeded precisely, silently, decisively. Lauren stood frozen arms limp at her sides. Kevin tried to mumble something, then gave up. Gregory gave a small nod as if accepting defeat. Aisha walked over to Elena. Thank you for not staying silent. Elena nodded, eyes glistening. I just did what was right. Exactly. Starting tomorrow, you'll be in charge of front desk management, and I want you to join the Reform Training Advisory Team directly. Elena was stunned. The people around began clapping softly, then louder. Several returning guests stood up to congratulate her. The girl live streaming was still recording that video would go viral across social media in under an hour. That day, Horizon Grand didn't just resolve one incident. They witnessed a redefinition of power. 3 days later, on the official Horizon Hospitality website, a notice was published. All 57 hotels in the network will undergo independent review. All staff must complete their SPECT before Smile training program. Any act of discrimination, no matter how small, will be dealt with immediately. At the press conference, Aisha didn't read a speech. She said only one thing: I didn't become a founder so I could fire people. I became a founder so I could fix what I was once a victim of. She listened to every complaint, even the criticisms. She personally spoke with guests who had once been denied service just because they didn't look like VIP customers. When asked what kept her going, Aisha looked straight into the TV camera. Hospitality doesn't begin with a smile. It begins with the respect you give others, even when you don't know who they are. This story didn't end with an argument. It didn't end with a dramatic punch. It ended with quiet, resolute human change. But the audience felt it deeply. They saw someone humiliated and rise up not for revenge, but to redefine justice. And for them, that was an ending worth sharing. An ending that made them feel justice finally arrived. And this time, it wasn't late.